Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's ECA Learning Zone webinar. I'm Omar Khalil, Communications Manager here at ECA. Today's webinar is all about BIM and integrated collaboration with Revisto, an ECA Commercial Associate member. Today's presentation will be led by ECA's Technical Manager, Shahid Khan. Shahid is joined by James Lawrence, who you can see on camera now. James is VDC Implementation Manager for the EMEA region at Revisto. James will tell you a bit more about the company in just a moment. I'll shortly hand over to Shahid, first of all, for a quick overview of today's topic. But before I do that, I just want to remind you that you can use the question mark button that should be on your screen now at any time during today's presentation to ask our presenters a question, and we'll do our very best to answer as many as possible in our Q&A section at the end of the session. This webinar is being recorded and the full replay will be available on ECA's YouTube channel. That's at youtube.com/ECA Live. And that's where we also host replays from the entire ECA webinar series, covering all sorts of industry-specific, technical, commercial topics, etc. So with that said, I hope you enjoy today's session, and over to you, Shahid.
Thank you, Omar. Welcome, everyone. So just a few words from me before we get into the meat of the actual presentation. So most of us have heard of, software like Autodesk CAD and Navisworks and Revit, but are there alternative players in this space that we should be thinking about? Revisto is an alternative platform that encourages BIM, so that's building information modeling and collaborative working. The idea of real-time live working and a single repository or source of truth are at the heart of good BIM adoption. But more excitingly for me, the Revisto platform is based on gaming technology, so I can't wait to find out a bit more about that. Well, without further ado, may I introduce James Lawrence of Revisto. James?
Thank you very much for having me. It's very nice to be speaking in front of a kind of different crowd. My day-to-day calendar is pretty much built up with clients, so it's nice to kind of take my Revisto day-to-day hat off and put something else on different, where I can kind of sing the praises of the software to a different audience. Without further ado, we'll jump into the presentation.
Sorry, James, I can't hear you.
Sorry, for some reason it just muted, so I do apologize about that, everybody. Let's start again. So Revisto, as it was said at the top of the call, it's an integrated collaboration platform. So what we mean by saying that is that we want to bring everybody from different disciplines and different services throughout a construction workflow into the same platform. There's nothing worse than people being fragmented and working on their own kind of silos and work, and then somebody having to try and meld that together at the end of the job to get the information out, to get the models out, drawings and reporting as well. It's a detriment to the workflow if people keep themselves to themselves. So with Revisto, we're aiming to open up the BIM world to the wider environment. So you don't have to be a BIM specific person like a Revit technician or a BIM manager. This is now open for design managers, clients, project managers, anybody that is involved in the supply chain to come in and have access to that one single source of truth of information throughout the project lifecycle. As I said at the top of the call as well, my name is James Lawrence. I'm the VDC Implementation Manager for UK EMEA. My role is day-to-day dealing with clients on the technical side of support. So when we get new clients on board, I will be their technical support, which means I will train them up on basic training, more user advanced training, and then day-to-day support as well. So my calendar is filled day-to-day with support calls with clients. We tend to find that some clients do like to be left to their own devices, but we're always there in the background if they should need the support. My background is I've had over 18 years working in construction. I started as an apprentice. I actually had an electrician's apprentice on the cards, but I decided to go down more the mechanical route. So I do apologize for that. But I kind of followed a very kind of organic path to where I am now. So I started as an apprentice, then moved up into using CAD. Then when Revit was available to the wider industry, I learned how to use Revit, BIM management, and then with the use of Revisto in various companies I've worked over in the years, I was offered the opportunity to come and work for them. Among our customers, we have a lot of owners who use the platform. So this is a client-based platform. So when things are being written in terms of BIM execution plans and EIRs, Revisto will be placed along there based on the owner's requirements. So varying from nuclear power through to airports, universities, healthcare, hospitals, we cover quite a wide range of clients. Contractors as well. We work with a lot of the top tier contractors within the UK, as you can see at the top, likes of Skanska, Multiplex, Balfour Beatty, and even smaller ones as well. But we tend to find as well that Revisto is being mandated throughout those companies as well. So we're starting to see more and more people adopt the software based on the contractor's requirements. Engineers as well. So more on the consultants level, the people who win the work for the contractors and end up producing a lot more of the detailed design. As you can see within now, a lot of familiar names, some based out in Europe as well, some mostly based in the UK. I have clients that are based in the Nordics, the Netherlands, some in France, but predominantly my customers are based within the UK. And then architects as well. So timeline of coordination communication. Kind of back in the day when BIM was in its infancy, and it was a bit like the Wild West, nothing was mandated. So that meant that workflows became very cumbersome, very difficult to manage, as I mentioned before. When a drawing's updated, it will go through to an email. Red pen, email. When a drawing has been created, published, email. So you're starting to find that trying to manage this process becomes incredibly difficult. Where Revisto comes in, Revisto sits right at the end and strips out a majority of that process. So once the models and the drawings have been updated to the platform, everybody has access to that latest information. They can start marking up the drawings, creating issues, and starting getting that line of communication going, as well as coordination. So you're stripping out having to sit in DTMs, having to have email round robins, create reports that people may read, put to one side, and nothing gets done. Whereas with Revisto, you can set deadlines, you can assign people to specific tasks, and there's no reason that nobody can do their part of the work with the information that's available to hand. So Revisto today, where are we at as a company? So we're a single source of truth for all teams, all skill levels as well. I can't emphasize enough on the skill level aspect of it because, as I said, we don't necessarily rely on BIM coordinators to manipulate this data anymore. Design managers starting to get involved. Clients are starting to get involved, project managers as well. If you can use a computer, you can use Revisto. It's that easy. And from any location on any device. We start to see with a lot of companies, they use external BIM companies. They may be the other side of the world, India. They may be working on different timescales, different timelines. But as long as everybody has that unified thread of information, it doesn't matter what time of the day you're reviewing it, it will be there for everybody to review. We can unify design environments to make change. Simplify the workflows. And again, this is one important aspect of it, is simplifying very complicated workflows. The central hub for all models, everything is within that place. As long as the models are being published on a regular basis, there's no need to go to a CDE, start downloading all the information and having to play around with it yourself. Real-time issue tracking. When it comes to coordination and clashes, we can real-time track these with dates, users, assignees, tags, etc. 2D and 3D BIM geometry. It's not just all about 3D and models. We can actually have 2D sheets in the model as well that we can overlay on the 3D information. Drive efficiencies with real-time collaboration. Coordinate issues across teams in office or on site. Again, it doesn't matter if somebody is within an office, somebody is on the field with the iPad, somebody's the other side of the world, somebody's on their phone. The information and issues are available to everybody. And I think it's worthwhile saying that, especially after the past, 2.5 years now, where a lot of things have been up in the air, especially when it comes to travel, and a specific number of people are allowed out on site. It doesn't matter if you're using Revisto, because all it takes is one person to be out on site to create the issue, then the rest of the team, no matter where they are, have availability and clarity of what's going on out on site. VR immersive experience, which now means that somebody can plug a VR headset into Revisto, someone has to drive the model, but you can hand that over to a client and you can give them a realistic walkthrough of the job and the state that the coordination's in. Clash-free projects. We have our own internal clash detection tool now. So again, stripping out one aspect of a complicated workflow in terms of clash detection, meaning that you can start to assign clashes to subcontractors that come on board. Collaborate from anywhere. Again, another key point, we can collaborate from anywhere in the world. So the features. A central hub for our models, as we said, you can view the entire project by federating all the intelligent BIM data in a centralized user-friendly location. Real-time issue tracking, standardize the way data moves throughout the project and effectively communicate model-based tasks, drive accountability across teams. 2D, 3D models, leverage a unique 2D and 3D combined view, easily compare 2D sheets and seamlessly work with live common data environments. The class automation is available in Revisto Plus. So what we're going to look at today is just the basic Revisto, but the Revisto Plus package allows the user to have their own integrated solution that combines the class detection, unique grouping and workflow builders into a single environment. And again, they collaborate from anywhere, contributing from the office or on site. The class automation features, as I said before, means that you have an all-in-one workflow. You can carry out your class detection, coordination meetings, model reviews, and more, all from one specific place. As an ex-BIM coordinator, class detection used to be the bane of my life because you're working with models that are in different states. You have to collaborate those, pull them together, create the report, and in some instances, it used to take me 2 to 3 days to do it. I ran a test on the class automation on an old workflow that I used to do, and I managed to collate the clashes within half an hour. That is ridiculous savings of time back, and it leaves the BIM coordinators to actually focus on other things as well. The collaborative clash management enables people to simultaneously carry out the class detection from the platform. You can directly connect to authoring tools through Revisto Switchback. So if a user has pushed up a cable tray model and an issue has been assigned to them, once they're in Revisto, they can click Switchback and it will automatically take them to where that issue lies in the authoring software. In this case, we'll use Revit. Live class test result filters. This means filter results specifically for relevant stakeholders without having to look through endless results. So the filtering tool within the class detection as well is incredibly powerful. And built-in immediate grouping tool. As I said before, the bane of my life was class detection. Whereas once you're setting up the clashes within Revisto now, you can group them before you run the clash. So you can group everything by room, level, any kind of parameters that are within the model. It's an incredibly powerful tool. And if we have time, I'll try and blitz through it. And just some numbers for you. This is slightly outdated because this has grown exponentially over the past couple of months, but just to show you, we have over 2,500 global clients, which is now pushing 1.3 million active sheets. And as you can see here, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. We're growing exponentially month by month. Some partnerships and associations that we're also available with. ECA, which makes sense, we're talking today, the UK BIM Alliance, and then in North America and Australia and New Zealand, we have chairs on these panels where we help shape the way that BIM should be used throughout the industry. And just to show you again how we work as an integrated collaboration platform, Revisto sits in the middle and all branches out to the different things. So the issue tracking follows graphical data, non-graphical data and documents, workflows, design, construction, facilities management, accessibility, workstation laptops. You can run things with games controller. We have tablets available for the field, virtual reality as well. And the single source allows you to interrogate, report, and exchange the information. Holistic issue tracking, which means that we now have a closed loop of information. So once an issue is created, that issue cannot be closed out until the issue itself within the 3D environment has been addressed, approved, resolved, and closed. And we'll talk about the interoperability just a bit later on, but this gives you a quick idea of the plugins that we have as well. So once you install Revisto on your laptop, whatever you have already installed, Revisto will automatically put that plugin in. So as you can see here, we have a lot of Autodesk ones, things like Tekla, SketchUp, Vectorworks. We cover a wide range of softwares that we support. Integrations is growing. We're going to have a few more integrations with CDEs moving forward, but currently BIM 360 Box and Procore are the main ones. Product enhancements in Revisto 5, Class Sync to scale measurements, search sets, appearance templates, field link downloader, and scene transform tools. And just to give you a good idea as well of where Revisto kind of sits within a RIBA workflow, the software comes into play around about stage 2 when the concept design models are being approved. They will be pushed up, and then you can track the coordination from stage 2 through to stage 5. So that is just a quick breakdown of Revisto. So what we'll do now is we'll jump into the software. So this is just a basic demo project that we have within Revisto. As said at the top of the call, Revisto is built on a gaming engine. So because Revisto is built on a gaming engine, this means that it can run on even the most basic laptops. You have the opportunity to play around with the software, have your own specific user settings that you can play around with the software. Everything is managed within the preferences tool. So I use a very, very good Alienware laptop. I don't need my graphics to be any more than good. Obviously, if you're sitting with a client and you want to push things through to a client, you can actually play around with that as well, get a better graphics within there, but all the user interoperability is within here as well. This doesn't affect the project itself. This just is for the user's unique experience. So things like camera and how you play around with the 3D and navigate as well, all plays into how you get the best experience out of the model. So we're currently within the 3D zone at the minute. As you can see here, we have a very basic model to zoom around with. I'm using the Revisto controls on this, which means it uses the best of SketchUp, Navisworks, all the kind of different softwares that you've used in the past, puts it into one unique package so we can do things like dynamic orbit around points. You don't have to select items to navigate around them. We have a dynamic zoom. So if you're within a large model, you can click zoom and it will jump you to a specific place where you can start to review things. If you toggle the walk command as well, you can actually start to do visual walkarounds of the job as well. So if you're in a plant room or a corridor and you want to do a walk around and start reviewing things, you can use the gaming keys, which is W for forward, A, S backwards, D left, A right. If you ever get lost within the project, you can click home and it will automatically reset back to a home button. We can also see grids within this view as well. So we can fix the grids to a level. If we're doing a review of level 10, the grids turn green if you're above them and red if you're below them. So this is really good for doing things like setting out as well, because you can measure to the grids as well. Alternatively, you can have them above and below the model, or you can have them hidden and fixed if you so require. We also have a view cube built in as well. So the view cube isn't a standardized thing that is floating in the project. You just have to come down to this little icon here, select what it is you actually want to look at, and then you can do perpendicular, you can do isometric, you can take views from the top down and look around that way. Now, one of the big things in terms of BIM models is navigating around the actual information itself. When I was a BIM coordinator, I'd have to sit there with the 3D model, I'd have to sit there with a 2D PDF and start reviewing things and pulling information across. If the architect has published the models through with the correct settings, i.e. rooms and grids available, this allows you to have interactive maps within Revisto so we can go through and start reviewing things live. So up here we have a map command. If I click on this map command, what happens is it creates the 3D view into a 2D cut through. I can go to a specific level. So let's have a look at level 6 and it will automatically take a cut through of that room. But there's also another feature here worth mentioning, that if we start to scroll in to a specific area, you will start to see that room names appear. So here we can see a college teaching room. You don't have to go back into the 3D area, start taking your sections and cut throughs to find this specific room. We can double click and we're automatically within that room. If we go back to the map mode, it will show us where we are within the project at any given time. So it's a really powerful way of jumping to rooms, jumping to any specific place where you want to go in and do a review and start marking up and creating issues. Alternatively, there is another way that we can find out where we are within the project, and that is by the rooms command. So again, the rooms have been pushed through by the architect and they're listed here alphabetically. So if we search for, say, for example, a main switch room, we can go to that, click on there, go to that switch room, and we're automatically within there. We can go to the different one within here as well. And if we right click within here, we can fit a box around the selection. So when it comes to reviewing rooms that you know are going to be under heavy scrutiny, we can come in here, automatically generate a cut section through, and we can start manipulating this to save a view. If I click on my section cut tool here, it allows me to control each individual face along here to start conditioning the view exactly how I want to see it. Now I'm holding control, which allows me to control through the actual model itself. So as you can see here now, this room isn't actually populated with anything. We have just a bit of buzz bar at the top there. So that's exactly what we want to see for this view. If we want to save this as a view, we go up here, click on viewpoints, save the view, and I'm going to drag it into here. And we'll call this main switch or room. And we're done. So it's very easy to save views. Once you edit a view, if you click on this icon, it will update that view for you as well. So if I just click on my home button now, and I'll quickly show you how we look at the information that is actually within the project itself. So as you can see here, I've clicked on the object tree and it's listing every single model that is within this project. Now, these are all Revit files. So the hierarchy of the Revit file will be exactly as you see. So if I go into MEP, it will do it by level and then break it down into specific categories as we see here. Now, I don't have to do this to find a specific item. I can actually use the search command. The toolbars at the top, the search toolbars are incredibly powerful for getting quick information out. So let's say, for example, we want to do a cable tray review. I'll type in cable tray and it's found every single cable tray within the project. Gives a quantification at the bottom. So there are 9,216 instances of cable trays in the project. But what do we actually do with that information once we have it selected? Right click and we can isolate. So there we have a concise view of all the cable trays that are doing the job. Alternatively, we can isolate in transparency. So all the models on the job will be transparent, except the cable tray will be automatically highlighted. So once I click off now, you can kind of see that it's within there, but we can play around with this a bit more. So I'll select the cable tray again. We can set a color to all the cable tray if we so require, and you can start playing around with exactly how you want to condition the models and you want things to look within the models as well. Click on show all, click on home, and the home resets, as I said at the top. We also have a properties panel within here as well. So currently I have no items selected. So if I go down here, pick on this distribution board, what will happen is it will bring up all the information that is associated with that one specific item that's been pulled in. If the data is not available in the authoring software, it will not be available within Revisto. So it's worth noting that all these parameters need to be filled in before you can manipulate them within the software. All the information comes through. So as you can see here, we have an MSSB, part of the electrical equipment. All the information is available for us to look at within here. I can hover over here at the minute and it just gives me a very bit of basic information. But what I can do is I can now create brand new presets of quick information. So we'll call this ECA test. And we can now start to populate this with the information that we actually want to see when we hover over the item. So I can just go through here, start putting things in. If we go down to, we'll put in these two as favorites. We'll put in some electrical loads as well. No, put in some circuiting as well. So we'll put in some electrical data in now. So once we hover over any piece of electrical equipment, that information is automatically available for us to review. Alternatively, there is also ways that we can start to look at quantifying and doing takeoffs and doing reviews of things that have been installed by looking at the selection inspector. So the selection inspector now has a favorite preset that we've just been through on the properties. So we're going to have a look at the MEP containment. So I'm going to select the MEP containment tab. Now this is currently not filled out because we haven't added any items to this selection inspector. So if I go back to my object tree, search for the cable trays, they automatically populated within the selection inspector. So we can now do a review of all the MEP containment. We can export that to a CSV for somebody to fill this information out and start getting it populated into the actual authoring software as well. Alternatively, we can change to a different one and have a look at MEP electrical equipment. So if I change this and search for electrical equipment, it now changes and brings in all the information that is associated with electrical information. So here you can see there are a lot of information that is currently missing for this. All the loads are missing, voltage is missing. So it's also a good way of managing to look at what items are missing within Revisto, and you can then create issues, give these back to the supply chain who needs to go back in and retroactively put this information in so you have a full list of things to be able to play around with the takeoffs. Just to show you one more thing as well, in the views, I also created a view within here as well. So again, within here at the minute, we're looking at quite a generic model. I want to just review the electrical equipment against the mechanical equipment within here. So what I can do is I can start to condition this view exactly how I want to see things. So if I go to my object tree again, select the electrical equipment within this view, I can color it. So I want to turn my electrical equipment blue. I can now search for my cable trays. And I can again set a color of those, and we'll set those to a red. And then anything else from in there means that you can go through, highlight things like pipe work, find out where clashes are highlighting against one another, and then we can go through and start creating issues. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go to the 2D area and start showing you how we review the 2D information against the information of what's in the actual model itself. So once you populate the 2D space with the sheets, they will come through with the actual model name that those sheets are applied to. So what we've had to do here is we've created a typical standard folder of what we expect things to look like. So we've broken it down into architectural drawings, structural drawings, MEP drawings. So if we have a look in the electrical drawings and have a look in the cable tray, we will go through and have a look at the level 1 south cable tray layout. All the information of the sheet is within here. So currently we have 3 versions of this that have been pushed through. We can see where it came from, who populated it, and when the sheet was uploaded. So if we click open on this, I'll just hide this out, sorry. Now you can see here that this is a very generic sheet, exactly what you've seen a million times within Revit models. This is a marked up containment drawing with everything that's associated this on it as well. But the unique feature of Revisto means that we have a little green button down here. If we click on this green button, it teleports us to a 2D overlay onto the 3D equipment. So what we have to do is we slowly have to drag this up so we can actually see the containment that we want to review. Now we have the ductwork on as well, so you can actually start to see where the installation of this containment, perfect, there we go. We can exactly see where this containment's going. We can see where it's crossing over on different services as well. We can see where different items have been put on here, so distribution boards within the lifts as well. Also within the 2D sheet means that we can do some basic measurements. So if we go to our measurement tool, there we go, we can actually start to look at distances between individual items. So that's 5.28 meters. We could now mark this up and say that this needs to move an additional 50 millimeters to move any kind of clashes that are going on within there as well. And we can do this measurement tool for all the items that are on the 2D sheets. But what we want to do now is we want to create a bit of an issue on a sheet so we can get the collaborative aspect of the workflow going. So if I just go back to my folder, we'll go and have a look at MEP combined drawings. No, we'll look at the lighting layouts. We go to level 6 north lighting. As you can see there, all this information has changed, and we need to do something with the sheet now to start addressing what is going on with some of these lights up in this top left-hand corner. We can do sheet comparisons, so we can have a look at a sheet that was initially done. So all these T1 lights were meant to be changed to a T2, for example. I can click on a first iteration of this drawing and compare it against what we actually have out on screen now. So what this effectively does is it applies an overlay of a previous sheet against the new sheet. So as you can see now, all the rooms have been turned off in this previous iteration of the sheet we have. The lights have changed ever so slightly against the architect's grid. So we want to create a markup here now based on an issue. So we're going to have a look at this college teaching room here. Click on the issue and it brings up this little dialog box. So we need to give it a title, and it's worth giving it a very kind of snappy title. So we'll say for this, change is required. And we now can go through and mark this up. So we have a bunch of tools here that allow you to mark up a drawing and add as much information to this as you can possibly add. So I'm going to draw a box around the area that we want to get the issue resolved and drag it around there. I can set the background opacity to a different color as well. So you actually want the issue to stand out itself. And I can add a call out box onto this as well, just to add that extra layer of information. And I'm going to put in here, please add rooms back onto lighting GA. Click done. And again, we can manipulate this text to make it look like something that is actually readable against the drawing as well. This doesn't look actually too bad for what we're doing now. And we can actually play around with things like arrowheads and all that kind of stuff as well. So a lot of functionality here to start really adding items to a markup that you can then have these addressed by somebody. So once we click done, it generates this as an issue. So as you can see within here now, I'm going to reset all the filters. You can see within here now, we have 989 issues. There are all kinds of issues within here, varying from stamps to issues to clashes. We need to go through and fill this metadata out now. So we're going to give it a quick priority of major. We're going to give it a deadline. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll give it a week. The assignee is the person who's going to fix the issue. So that's going to go to my colleague, Peter. I'm the reporter. The watchers are the people who are going to watch this. So we can add in a design manager and a PM. And the tags. These are the tags that are going to be powerful for filtering your way through all this information here and being able to look at all the issues that are assigned to yourself or that specific tag. So we'll look in here and we'll put like lighting G8. And I think that tag will do for this because that's a unique tag. If you're using Revisto Plus, you also have all this metadata available to look at as well. So what happens now is that once I've gone through a day of creating issues, whoever the assignee is will get an email at the end of the day saying, Peter, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 issues that you need to address. Also, when it comes into the software, you can see the green box just next to this issue tracker with a number in as well. This means that I have 12 issues that I need to go in and look at. So if I just come out, go back into my issue tracker, look at the filters, clear everything, go to all, and I can find now assignee. I can scroll down to myself and I can look at all the issues that are assigned to me now. So each individual one, I can come in here, have a look at where this is on the 3D, have a look on the markup, and I can come in here now and I can start to address things on this. So I can come in here now and say, I missed this, will address ASAP. There's also a built-in spell checker for people who can't spell when you're typing fast like myself. And click done. So what this means now is that I am getting the through line of communication addressed. So once at the end of the day, I can go through and sort this out. So each individual issue, I need to go through and have a look at what is going on, how I can address it, how I can resolve this. As I said previously, if I have this model open, I can right click, switch back to Revit. Now it's not connected to an authoring tool, but as long as I was the person who published the model to Revisto, I will go back, it will create a view around the specific item, then I can start to address this clash with the structural steel here. So the filtering is incredibly powerful for going through and finding out exactly what it is I'm looking at. Also within the 2D space as well, it's worth noting that within here, we also have the opportunity now to look at not only the 2D information over the 3D information, but we can also look at things in terms of point cloud scanning as well. So if I have a look at this piping layout, apologies for the mechanical bias on this one. If I have a look at this piping layout now, I can click on this green icon and it takes me to an aspect of the building where the models aren't actually loaded. So sorry, just bear me 1 second. I did actually take them out just to make things move a little bit quicker within the within this. Oh, I'm just gonna have to go in here. So if I go into my model management now, I can see that I've turned off a specific amount of models within here. So again, when it comes to people who don't necessarily have incredibly powerful laptops, they can come into the load unload models and they can take out heavy models that don't necessarily mean much to them. So if you're doing a review within a plant room, for example, and there's a facade model that's within the Revisto, you can turn that off and it will just help with the speed of making your Revisto run that bit quicker. So click apply, it will reload those models in for me. And what I can do now is go back to the 2D place, click on the sheet, it will take me down to the area here. So in terms of validating things that are not only just within the model, not only just within the sheet, but we can actually start looking at things that are actually actively out on site as well. So this is a point cloud that has been generated, put into the model. The 3D model has been put in, geometrically correct, and the 2D sheets has been overlaid on the top as well. So all I have to do is just drag this to exactly the area I want it to, and we can validate the install against what is within the model and what's within the sheets as well. Let's click on the home button, go back home again. The stamps is another way of doing an automated issue. So if I have a look at this plant room now, for example, and I wanted to address these switchboards, these need to be on a kind of plinth. At the minute, they're just kind of floating around. This design is an aspect that's not been looked at very often. So if I click on stamp, Within here, we have all our stamps put into folders. So I stress to my clients and the people that I'm training that folder structure within Revisto is a very, very big thing. Within here as well, I can look at the specific stamp that I want to put in. So I'm going to put a design stamp in on the electrical side. Click the stamp, place it on the item that you want it to, and as you can see there, all that metadata has automatically been filled in. So everything that we did on the issue has automatically been done. We can have a look at the markup and kind of posthumously put things in on the markup as well. So within here, I can just put plinth required, click done, and now we have different versions of that markup that we can look at as well. So everything is tracking the progress of the issue as we go along. Everything is logged. Nobody can cut corners. Nobody can cheat and say, oh, I've done something. If it's not within that chat log, they haven't done it. So again, it's basically giving people that extra layer of accountability, because obviously in construction, we're working against very, very tight timescales. Sometimes people do have to cut corners. I think it's the nature of the industry. But with Revisto, it's so open that everybody is kind of exposed. So if a piece of ductwork is still clashing with containment that has been addressed 2 weeks ago and it's still not been fixed, you can actually raise that. And when it comes into things like RFIs and EWNs, you can export these issues out. So if we go to a specific amount of issues here, so if I just go to my filters and go to anything that's assigned to myself, I can click on export the issues, select all the issues and click done. And that will put it into a Revisto demo project issues. Where did it put it? Sorry, just 1 second. I'm working on multiple screens here. Here we go. Finally got it. So as you can see here, these are all the issues that are assigned to me. I can also look at a snapshot of what's within there as well. And I can see all the information that's available with this. Once I expand this, I can see the original markups, how markups have changed, what kind of chat log has been put in here as well. So in an ideal scenario, everybody works within a 3D BIM environment, but we know that that's not necessarily the case. Especially working for a contractor level, you tend to find that there are a lot of small kind of fabrication shops that still work within 2D environments. So if you can provide them markups, issues, so they can do whatever they need to do their end without having to invest in the 3D modeling tools if they don't require, you can still keep them in the loop by giving them automated reports, automated issues. We can go to our reporting tool, we can create dashboards online, we can create reports online and still have that availability that they can see what is going on within the project without feeling left out with things. They can still address issues. They could create a markup on a PDF. We could come here, attach a file as well. So I could just look for a plan here, upload the plan and send it. Once that has been sent to the group, the full functionality is available there. So you can see this is just a 2D plan. But again, it just shows you the power that we can start adding things like schedules to here as well. We can start adding manufacturer's information. If somebody needs to swap out that distribution board with a manufacturer specific one, you could just put a basic link in there, tag them with the issue, then they can swap out the item without having to go into the depths of the internet, go on to kind of Revit family stores that may not necessarily have the correct information in there, and then they can start to manipulate this data as well. The only person who creates the issue is the only person who can close the issue out. So if I come in here and say that this is closed, Ash will come in now, see this is closed and go, wait a minute, no, this isn't correct. But because I'm an administrator on this project, I can do that. If I go in within here, you can set your access levels for all the kind of different people on. So you can have a set people for 2 administrators on the project. Then on the different access levels, we can do edit content and collaborate. So all the different access levels are available within here. So administrate allows you to do everything. Edit content and collaborate allows you to do specific things. So as you can see here now, I can't edit any of the issues. And you can also do just a basic one. So we created one now for our naughty Revisto teammates, i.e. the sales guys, who sometimes come into the model when they're doing demos and just go absolutely crazy, creating everything. Whereas on this setting, they're very limited to what they can do. So don't worry that somebody who kind of is a bit like a bull in a china shop when it comes to working in models, you can set their specific level of what they can and can't do within the project as well. I always like to call out design managers on this level, so I do apologize if there are any on the call, but I have a very long history with design managers and causing a bit of chaos within the projects. So, I mean, basically, that is a very, very quick whistle-stop tour of Revisto. There's a lot more that we didn't get a chance to talk about because it's more on the advanced side of things. So I'm not necessarily going to sit here and start to show you the ins and outs of creating search sets and appearance profilers. But what we can also do as well is that we can also do something called camera share. So again, if somebody is at one side of the world and you're working within the same model, you can share the camera with any user that's online and they can see exactly what you're doing at that moment. So if you're talking about a specific piece of equipment within a specific area and they're still not quite getting it, you can do a camera share, show them exactly where it is, start to create the issues as well. Then they have that full visibility, the full functionality of everything that's within the project as well. So I hope that gives you just a very, very kind of basic idea of the power of Revisto, what we can do with Revisto, and how it effectively opens up the door to the wider community. You don't have to be a BIM specific person to use Revisto. If you've ever played a game on a computer, you'll get used to it in no time. You'll be playing around with Revisto for a couple of days and I guarantee that everything will become second knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thanks, James. It's really, really clever stuff. It seems to tie all parts of the industry together, which is something that has always been lacking. So yeah, that's really, really good. We've got a couple of questions. The first one being, what kind of technical support can you offer our members, and how would that differ from like the support that somebody would get from like Autodesk, let's say?
Okay, so when people sign up with Revisto, you get a customer success package as a basis. So this is a set amount of hours which allows you to have specific user training and that kind of basis of support. But the way that we work with clients is that we have a very kind of open relationship with our clients. If somebody wants to contact us directly, that's not a problem. I deal with people on a multiple basis, on multiple weeks in my calendar, where we have, I deal with them where I effectively build a tracker for them. So if there's something that they would like to see in Revisto to improve it, I will take that feedback, I will put it to the development team, and they will review it and say a simple yes or no. Because what we tend to find is that when a lot of contractors and clients come over to Revisto, is that there are things that it may not have done better than something else, but it does better in the wider picture, if that makes any sense. So in terms of the relationship with the clients, we listen to our clients. We have very good relationships with them. We make sure that we touch base with them on a bi-weekly basis, a monthly basis as well. As I said, some really just like to be left to their own devices, but others I have very, very regular meetings with. Say, for example, tomorrow I have a meeting with Kia that I have every 2 weeks where all the regional BIM managers come on board. We do a review of any issues they have, any features that they'd like to see in as well. So we're basically, if we want to change the industry and drive change in the industry, we have to listen to the people that are using the software. If we just close a door on you and say, give us your money, thank you very much, what use is that to anybody? If we want to improve, we need the feedback. So that's why we listen to all our clients and take on board all their feedback.
Thank you. Thanks, James. The second question that's come in is that you've mentioned, well, you've talked about interoperability. Can you expand on that a little bit more? I.e., does Revisto sort of accept DWG files, let's say if it's like CAD files or Revit files, etc.?
Yeah. So I've just switched to a different project now. So this is what we were using as our kind of demo project, because what we've effectively done with this project is we've loaded everything we possibly can chuck at Revisto within there. So if I go back to my object tree again, as you can see within here now, we have so many different file types within here. We have our basic Revit ones. We have NWFs, which is a federated model from Navisworks that's been pushed through. We have a Google Earth import, OBJs. So when people are doing point cloud scannings out on site, we're still working with a lot of companies that do point cloud scanning to have a direct import. But the way that it works is that once you've generated those scans, you can download them as an OBJ, bring them straight into Revisto, so you can play around with them. IFCs is obviously the industry standard for exporting data. So most software that we deal with, like Tekla, for example, has a way to export an IFC to Revisto. Alternatively, you can do it manually by importing different files in. So as you can see within here, OBJs, RVM files for Plant 3D, Point Cloud, Recap, Pharo, all those kind of things work. A majority of them do have a Revizto tool to export directly, but unless we can get that API, which is, say for example, Google Earth is a very good example of that, we're never going to get an API to work with Google because they're just too big and too busy to take on board like a minnow like ourselves. So we have to work ways around, which is the basic imports. VWX files as well, so another way of point cloud scanning. But just to show you how Revizto handles point clouds, if I dive into this area here and jump in, you can see that this is a very kind of basic point cloud within there. Alternatively, I wanted to take you to, where is it? It's hiding at the back somewhere. I think it's just down here. So if I click on my alt again, zoom into this area, there's our mechanical plant room that we've reviewed previously, and just one more, which is just up at the back here. I'm imagining most people will recognize this. So the big dinosaur in there, but this was done with Pharo as well. So in terms of point cloud scanning and reality capturing, we're one of the best that can handle all this software. It's a gaming engine. So once that's been put in, you can actually review this against the information because you can measure point to point within here as well. So yeah, interoperability, we work with 90% of construction software. Like I said, there are a few that are just being a bit difficult, but we're actually starting to break those down as well. Same with CDEs. And again, in terms of pushing up the 2D drawing, you can export directly from AutoCAD. You can export directly from Plant 3D, AutoCAD MEP as well. That functionality is seamless, and you can switch back between the two as well.
That's excellent. Thank you very much. That's all the questions that we've had in. I don't know if Omar wants to come in at that point.
No, that's right, Shahid. No more questions from the audience. So that's it from the audience Q&A section.
Thank you.
Excellent. So just to round off this afternoon's session, first of all, massive thanks to James from Revizto for his presentation, and big thanks to Shahid as well for moderating the Q&A there. If you're currently watching this as a replay on YouTube, or if you're catching us on social media and you've got any questions that we haven't covered today on the webinar, do drop an email to publicaffairs@eca.co.uk and we'll do our best to get those answered for you. Before we sign off, James, where can our audience find you online? Where can we find out more about Revizto?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn, James Lawrence. I'll be one of the first results to come on there, obviously working for Revizto. If you go to the Revizto homepage as well, just www.revizto.com, on there is everything that you can possibly want to know about Revizto, learning videos, how-tos. The support channel has a lot of Q&As as well. You can also request a demo with on there as well. So if you kind of feel that, obviously we're on a webinar, we're restricted to time and kind of things that we can do as well. If you would like to book in a demo, you can do so via the website. That will come to me or one of my colleagues. We'll get that booked in, and then we can probably give you a bit more of a higher level demo and kind of talk you through a bit more of how Revizto can fit into kind of specific workflows as well. Obviously, on the electrical side of things, as I said at the top, I'm mechanically biased, so it will be definitely very good to get a bit more information on how the electrical side of the industry is adopting BIM and working with BIM as well. So you learn from us, I'd like to learn from you as well, because that just helps me on my day-to-day job. But yeah, we're all over online, LinkedIn, Twitter, and as well, the website has all the information you could possibly need on there.
Excellent. Thank you very much, James. And thanks once again to our audience, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.